Well, we are 6 days away from a referendum over Crimea. Will it stay a part of the Ukraine or opt to join Russia? It's a perfect time to bring Bohdan Kordan into the mix. He is a political science professor at St. Thomas More College in Saskatoon. He is also the director of the Prairie Center for the Study of Ukrainian Heritage. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Bohdan, my biggest question this morning, is a referendum even legal? German Chancellor Angela Merkel saying no.
Under Ukrainian law, it's not legal. There's a constitutional protocol that needs to be followed. And certainly there's a possibility of a referendum that could be held, but it would have to be within the context of the provisions of the Ukrainian constitution. This would, of course, require the agreement or the sanctioning by the Ukrainian parliament. And this, of course, has not been done. So consequently, unconstitutional. And if it was to be held, it would be illegal.
So who's in charge then, I guess, when the Ukrainian parliament hasn't said yes to this? Who can make this go ahead? Is it the people themselves?
Yeah, the argument really is that the Ukrainian government is the constitutionally constituted legal government of Ukraine. It exercises sovereignty over Ukraine. It's the sole authority in Ukraine. So ultimately, it alone can decide the future of Crimea.
I'm interested in Crimea itself. Why is this peninsula so desirable?
Well, from the point of view of Ukraine, it's desirable because it represents ultimately the tripwire on which Ukraine can claim sovereignty. If Crimea is annexed by Russia, then ultimately other parts of Ukraine can be threatened accordingly. So there's an imperative on the part of the Ukrainian government to ensure that Crimea remains intact or remains within the political framework of Ukraine. From the point of view of Russia, it really is about the neo-imperial design that, in fact, is being orchestrated by Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin has ambitions for Russia, and certainly the restoration of this part of the former Soviet Union is a key, perhaps even the jewel in the crown in the restoration of some kind of imperial framework that he so desperately desires.
Let's talk about these referendum ballot questions. We have them coming up on the screen. The first one, are you in favor of Crimea becoming a constituent territory of the Russian Federation? The second question asking people there, are you in favor of restoring Crimea's 1992 constitution, which, according to the 92 constitution, the autonomous republic is part of Ukraine but has relations with Kiev. Are these fair questions to be asking voters?
Well, there's no provision for people to actually assert the other position, which is, do you want to belong in as an autonomous republic under the Constitution of Ukraine, or equally, do you want to remain an autonomous republic? So the argument here is these are loaded questions. They don't make provision for an alternative option. You will recall that in the context of the sovereignty debate within Canada, certainly one of the important issues is to have a clear and unequivocally clear question, and this is certainly absent in this case. The questions are loaded so that in effect it will favor the position of the Russian position, if you will.
Bohdan, we have about 30 seconds. Should the West step in, and what can we do?
Well, the facts are on the ground. There are occupation troops in Crimea. There's probably nothing that can be done militarily. But what is quite clear, however, is that the Ukrainian government has made its case that, in fact, not a centimeter of territory will be ceded. This makes for a very tense and serious situation. The West ultimately will have to make that argument about how much and to what extent it will assist Ukraine in stating its position. Perhaps diplomatically is the only sort of case, but we see ultimately that this may involve much more.
Bohdan, we appreciate you taking the time for us this morning, bringing us some insight.
No problem.
It's Bohdan Kordan joining us from St. Thomas More College in Saskatoon.